You are now tuned in to DameSmiff.
Welcome to Musician Talks with DameSmiff, and this is episode 21. And today, I want to talk to you guys about embracing other artists and what that's like as an artist and why it's important and what you can do to utilize this to bring benefit to your musical career or your artistic career, depending on what you do. But before I get started, I want to make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe, the regular rigmarole, and engage in the conversation. Drop a comment, share, introduce this podcast to anybody who's interested in music, the music industry in general, or just generally wants to understand what it's like to be an artist or creative today. So, again, embracing new artists or embracing other artists. What is that? What does embracing a new artist look like today? Today, embracing a new artist, honestly, is something as simple as clicking like on a video or sharing, a song or things like that you like with a person. Today, people's artistry is a lot bigger than just music. So, tapping in or taking part in someone's culture or lifestyle and showing appreciation for what they do is a very, very, very positive first step in embracing artists, other artists, and things like that. And why this is important is because it does open doors for new networking, good networking, and if you do it with the right intentions, honest networking, where it's not so conditional and transactional. You kind of build a bond with the person you're with. And this can go both ways for people who either are artists or people who are fans. Because if you are an artist, this can be great because you can learn a lot of things from new artists. One thing I learned with working with different artists is that you almost inherently, unless you guys grow up in the same area and things like that and have a lot in common, it's almost inherently uncomfortable dealing with new artists. That's because you're in a new space, doing new things, trying new sounds, experiencing new ideas, and in some cases being open and vulnerable to sharing your own ideas and experiences with this person. Now, as a fan, this can be also cool too, kind of in the same way. It's a little more, you have a little more boundaries as a fan because you don't necessarily need to deal with a new artist you've been introduced to personally, but introducing yourself to new music and new artists and new genres and things like that can be a little uncomfortable because you would have to accept that what you previously enjoyed about another artist you may never get from this new artist, and it's honestly just something that you would have to accept or tolerate as you move through your experiences as a fan exploring new music. Now, what are some ways we can capitalize or really get the benefit from introducing ourselves to new artists or introducing new artists to our life in general? Um, some of the ways you can do this, like I said, are on social media. That's the obvious one. But honestly, a lot of these artists, especially ones that aren't as popular but are consistent and working, a lot of these artists are physically out and about in the various areas that you may be, especially in areas that are highly populated. Like I was in DC, so DC was full of people who were trying to, start or create or get business going in that area. So I ran into a lot of artists. But if I live somewhere maybe like 3 hours west of that or something like that, it might be a little different because of just general population and the resources there. So that's also something to think about when you are looking to explore and collaborate with new artists. You may need to travel or, think about scheduling maybe ways you can go see these people when they do stop into your town or stop nearby and things like that. And another way is to actively uh, search for these things. I think that's something people don't think about oftentimes. Like you have to actually look for new music and new artists and things like that. Today's marketplace isn't putting new in front of you. they're putting successful in front of you. So if that makes sense. So if an artist has been out for 10 years, 15 years, and they've been publishing music or something like that, um, without that track record of success, you may never know that until they do start to get noticeable success. Versus the artist who's been out for 1 or 2 years that is starting to get the track record of success, that artist is going to be more and more visible just due to how the market functions. Like a lot of the money made in music industry is in the exploitation of music, not the creation of it. So people who are creating new sounds and unique cultures and soundscapes and things like that, uh, unless they've showed a very profitable amount of success either early on or at some point, you're gonna have to go and look for that. Like a great example of this would be the Griselda team. Like I've heard of them years ago, but I never really looked into it until they started to show up everywhere, the billboards and all this other place. But what that comes with for them is that they obviously have been doing it for a long time, longer than I knew, but their success became visible. So then it was almost impossible to ignore them. And understanding that, we can now say that, well, if I want to explore and find new artists, you can ask the question, how do I find them? Where do I look to get them and things like that? Which entails or which implies that you need to look for these new artists and things like that. So to answer that previous question, how do I find new artists and things like that? The typical DSPs and streaming sites are perfect because most artists are trying to get on these places. But oftentimes artists, especially if they're starting out or something like that, they're gonna have their own independent setup. So they may have their own website, their own Instagram, maybe their own social media platform, or even Patreon or something like that that they'll invest in, so that way they can have a foundation for when they do get on to the DSPs or the larger market shares and things like that, where they get signed or whatever. But that's the cool fun part for fans to go along with that ride, and it's also the cool part as a fellow artist to go along with that ride, because if you are beneficial to this person, you both can reap benefits mutually, versus one reaping benefits and another doesn't. And in a great situation, you can just watch another artist develop into their success, and it's always a good thing. So that's today's episode of introducing and embracing new artists, and that is Musician Talks with DameSmiff. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll be uploading every day except for Wednesdays at 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. And you can catch me here on YouTube, and I'll be here chilling out with you guys. Thanks.